intensely sad, and trust me, I would have much rather been at Kretz.
It's on film.
Excellent.
So you can watch it if you like.
So let's give Sid our good attention now. Oh, I got
So,
some time.
I think, I mean, I call it our influenzas because we tend to get sick of ourselves, so we have to sort of reinvent everything. So, as it were, I think so. I don't know how everybody else will. So this first fellow here, this is his name. I'll try to pronounce it the best way I can. His name is Casimir, the initial N, and then it's Tuk is like the umlaut house, like house, but it's house. So for you guys, he was an experimental sound artist who was born on Saturn on May 1st, 1732. He died November 4th, 2012 on Neptune. He was an artist in his own right, though not called an artist in his time. He did a lot of odd jobs in between, like he was a shoe lace maker, so that's the top, I believe, of the shoe. Window washer, tobacco salesman. He was a slave during the Saturn Civil War. He fought in other major planet wars throughout his lifetime, like the infamous Saturn War 22, where Saturnites were called to battle when secret Earth NASA forces came to the planet. In a sneak attack in 1965, he composed a lot of kind of oddball compositions that incorporated a lot of natural sounds, including Earth chickens' inability to lay eggs, Earth cattle birthing calves, and test tube whistling sounds. Not much is known about his family life, though it was irregular. He was a devoted father to his 30 children he had throughout his lifetime. So this is, let's see if I can, this might be the one. I don't know if this is the time on this one. Let's see if it's this one. I'm not trying to play it. I don't know if it's this one. Let me see. This one might be the chicken one. Sorry. Oh. Excellent.
Sid, hover over the speaker again, and then to the right where there's that little volume icon.
Yeah.
Click on that guy. To the right of that.
Oh, yes. It's up as far as it can go.
Was it playing all the way from Saturn?
No, actually, he could come down to Earth to record this.
Okay. Transmission lines.
Okay, so there's that one. And so the next person, her name is Myra, and I'll try to figure out the best way to pronounce this. This is hey, it'd be like hey, art, sizzle, so it's hey, art, sizzle, like the tizzle. The T is silent, but it sounds like an S. She was a collage / paper artist, painter, and numerologist whom they although they're not certain about her official birth date, they think it was 1800. She was born on Venus, and she died September 9th, 1994. But later she moved to Saturn when she was 22. She worked pretty well in paper, watercolors, and collage. She had what Earthlings call an eagle eye for sight, color, and aesthetics. She was pretty much, she remained single throughout most of her life. She was involved in several secret plans that Earthlings would call coffee clatches. She was controversial in her work, most notably in the last year of her life. She created a collection of what she called boxed moments that she would take like old reel-to-reel cardboard canisters and create collages around the box and put in momentary items that were previously used. Instead of like going to like major art galleries on Saturn, she would come down to Earth and bring them to you know, the like public libraries in small towns, and she would have them displayed prominently because she felt that this would grab the attention of the common Earthling. But they didn't always agree with her. The library officials would never agree with her because she would often forced to withdraw her work because of suggested items in a box. I'm going to show you a box in a sec. Some of the items that she would put in there would be linked to numerology, the occult, and recreational drugs, which of course libraries in general, they often follow the Judeo-Christian values, and her ideas and their rules never meshed. You'll also see a gouge in the bottom of the box, which came from an unknown source, which she believes was damaged by Earth librarians. So I'll show you this picture. So these are what they call on Earth caramel wrappers, so things like that. You can see the birthday candle. I'm not sure you can. I think it's like all the way back. Okay. So this guy, his name is Ari Ross, like New York Knicks, you know. And Ari was born on Saturn, April 20th, 1897, in an uncharted black hole about 70 million light years away from Saturn, and later moved around several planets. He mostly spent time between Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto, which, you know, Earthlings would later void it as a planet and made it into a Plutoid. He was a poet and philosopher. He's pictured in his philosopher's uniform because they, because they felt to be believable to others, they had to dress up as such. His ideals were comparable to Freud, but since he moved around so much, he was considered what Earthlings call scatterbrains and became a laughingstock of the entire solar system, minus Earth, of course. His main thoughts about Saturnites that many were tied to their parents, and Saturn children often became their parents without even realizing. He also viewed Earth fat and culture pithy and over-trendy, and often commented on this within his poetry, which was more often than not was reflected in Saturn haiku, which is similar to American haiku, meaning little if no structure that he wrote after speaking to others. He also weighed in on public opinions when it came to religion and what Earthlings call sports, which often brought him trouble. So I've got a sample of his work here, and he passed away on October 9th, 2010 of planetary causes. So this was the first two were through. Actually, the first one and the third one were more clientele work, and the second one was more of, I guess you could say, public opinion. That's all I have for you.
Okay, so let's send any feedback.
Are all of your influences associated with a specific time period, or is there a reason why you chose, like, the artists that you did who seem to be, a certain portion of history rather than contemporaries?
Yeah, I more or less believe in the older, sort of the old guard of people, the old traditional ways.
Okay.
I saw the coordination of the first two artists, with the box and kind of what you were doing in multiples, as well as the audio, obviously, about that. Is this something you're thinking about doing, more writing, or, because there's a lot of work you can do musically, which is, been a great exploration, but do you write haiku, poetry, or anything along those lines?
I've done it in the past, yeah.
You've been doing more of it recently too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, fairly recently. I just got involved with actually a songwriter, and we're gonna put some of my new works back to work soon.
Well, I think this is kind of really fascinating, collection of influences, and I'd like to you talk a little bit about how they have influenced your work specifically. I also think there's an interesting, there was a box that you showed by an artist who, the date was 1994, but she had died in 1922.
Right, like you are
No,
bullshit,
no,
that's
no,
right.
no,
Like
no,
you were
no,
just
no,
told
no.
bullshit, that's right.
Yeah, that was all.
No,
I don't know what's happening and I don't know how to say it. Like, I don't
What's
know.
happening?
I
No,
actually
no, no,
think
no,
it's
no, 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 hang on.
Right.
No, she died in 1994.
I mean, I would like to see more of that work developed and more, I mean, I think it's actually kind of an inspired idea to invent your own inspiration.
Yeah, I needed to make sure that we were like gonna talk about that.
Mhm.
And
Right,
not just like
yeah,
pretend
yeah.
like these
We
were
definitely need to
people.
talk about
Thank
that.
you.
I thought it was really actually inspiring. I would like you to see really to take all these people and develop histories and backgrounds and family trees and copious work that they each produce. Copious, not just one or two examples.
By the way, I should tell you also that none of them are Googleable because
You're not-
no, you're on.
But actually-
they are
actually-
not Googleable.
You
Yeah,
should
no.
make them Google, like,
But
you should
that
do
would be a
this.
part of a really interesting project for you to make them, to give them all a web presence, and tie them all to you.
I feel like someone did that. There was a collective. You brought them in, maybe? The science people who are making up their own science.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, like this is making
Research
stuff.
organization.
Right. It's like a spin of that idea. It's like, am I making that up? That happened like a month ago. I don't know.
Does seem like a light year ago, when we last met. No, so, I think that's a really fascinating approach to this project. And at some point, it would be interesting to know where you feel your work and what you've presented here fits into a context of other artists that are going on. It would be interesting just for you to know, as well as for us to know. Although I think this was a kind of inspired presentation, and I really want to see more. I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, you have to do this full force period.
Yeah, if you're gonna do this, you've got to do it completely over the top. More, which is hard, which I kind of can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
In relationship to you, Sid Yiddish. But it almost has to be more. I think the people worked best when you had their names in front of us, because they're not familiar, so you need to make them familiar, and you need to really stand behind them. I mean, I think they're really interesting.
If you could find any ways that any of these artists might have influenced other Earthling artists as well, that might be an interesting way to take it, you know, as far as, where did she get that idea? Oh, from this Influence of Saturn.
Right.
I do like the idea of creating Saturn for yourself. I think that's the most interesting part of what you're doing here is creating the Saturn. Or exposing us to Saturn. It's already there.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry, I mischanged my words around.
Anyone else have anything they want to add before we move on?
Yeah,
We have 1 minute left.
I'm interested in what, like regardless of what level of sort of performativity and fictionalization is happening in this presentation, like I am curious as to like what the sort of thematic through line is, like between these different like artists' body of work and things that are influential to you, like why?
These are the ones on the show.
Like what's exciting to you about that?
Well, I mean, they helped create who I am today.
I believe that, but I guess I want to know why or how.
How?
Yeah.
I'm not sure you know I follow.
So like, if an artist is influential on your practice, you can be like, oh, because of this particular formal thing they do, or because of this kind of medium that they work with, or this kind of theme that they engage with, or this is how they relate to their audience, like, sort of those kinds of ways in which something can influence it.
And I think that actually would make the entire presentation stronger, even with these lesser known artists.
Well, because like I think if you're gonna present like fictional or semi-fictional artists, you need to still follow up and do like be able to answer the questions that you would be made to answer if you were presenting like well-known real artists.
Like where, and that's kind of what I was talking about. Like you want to make larger work and put them in context. Someone said something about talking about their influence on other artists. That was really interesting, and what their contributions would be, you know, in terms of performance, in terms of writing, in terms of.
We just want to put us in a position where I don't want to say we're going to feel dumb not knowing who these artists are, but like literally put us in a position where you're an expert and you're going to educate us like very strictly in a very formal education way.
I mean, one thing to think about is like, look, you know, what would it be if you were to create Wikipedia entries for them? What would you need to do to tie them into other sources? I mean, this is one of the big issues with Wikipedia that's come up in terms of documenting artists and tying them to resources, et cetera, et cetera. Anyhow, we are done. So the next person.